Aloha, and thank you for tuning in to our next podcast episode. Want to make sure you never miss an episode, as well as get tips on how to hire an attorney and be eligible for monthly prizes? It's easy. Just join our free membership called the Agent of Change membership. Text your name and your email to area code 808-670-3400. Make sure you text back agree. And also to check out our past episodes, just log into www.legaladviceinparadisepodcast.com. Now enjoy the next episode. Aloha.
Welcome to the Legal Advice in Paradise podcast, brought to you by www.legaladviceinparadise.com. Even in one of the most beautiful places in the world, life can be litigious. On this podcast, the best and brightest legal minds gather to help you navigate your way through every legal question you may face. This program will help you know your rights, know what steps to take, and help you find the best legal representation, all in simple, easy to understand terms. And now, here's your host, Justine Gronwald.
Aloha, Agents of Change. This is Justine from Legal Advice in Paradise, and today we're having our Witness Wednesday guest. His name is Pastor Roy Yamamoto of Camp Agape. Before I get into today's episode, I just want to let you know why I have him on the show. Is that if you refer back to episode number 4, I interviewed Peter Carlisle, and we talked about the revolving door of crime, people going in and out. I also interviewed Duke Aiona, who is a judge for the drug court. We also talked about people coming in and out of the court, and also even to the point where some of the parents will lose their parental rights altogether if they don't get their act together. I also interviewed Elwin Ahu, and we talked about him being a judge as well, and seeing all of this people coming in and out of his court. And for those of you watching YouTube, like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the episodes. So from that, I'm gonna go right into Pastor Roy, telling us more about Camp Agape and how it's helping those who have been in court, and most importantly, their children that are affected by this.
A lot of children really suffer because of the families going into prison, the mom and dads. And studies say there's about 1.5 million inmates in prison today in the U.S. and I think 1.3 million children of the incarcerated. Wow. And it's hard because when we go into a prison, the ones that suffer the most is the families, the children, the wives, or the one that is left behind to take care of everything. And because of it, studies say that 80% of the children of the incarcerated will also go to prison too. And
it's a cycle.
So, God really put in our heart to start this ministry. We first started the ministry doing Angel Tree. We'll reach out and bring presents for the children of the incarcerated on Christmas, and it was good, but we knew we had to do more than a one-day event to really reach and make a difference in the children's life. So we prayed and we decided to do a camp, and a 4-day camp where we could have that time to build relationships with the children and see God really come in and make a change in their lives. So, that's pretty much how we got started. And for me, it was something really close to my heart because I was supposed to do 80 years to life as a career criminal.
80 years to life?
Yeah, and God actually cut me free, and it really put in my heart, to never forget where I came from and remember the children, because when I was in prison, that's what gave me the vision of really doing the best I could in the ministry, because my daughter got gifts on Christmas from this Angel Tree program from a Christian church. And that was the first hope she had that had a chance to change, was because this Christian church gave this gift on behalf of my name. So when I got out and that became my job, I did everything we could. So that's why we started this camp for the children. Okay. And we started our first camp 9 years ago, and I think we had like 50 children come to the camp.
That's quite a number to start. Yeah, 50.
Yeah, it was a lot for our first camp. Mm-hmm. And you know, we only started with like maybe 60 volunteers helping with the camp at our first one, but since then, over the years, it started to grow and grow and grow, and we started to take 150 every year, and this will be our 9th year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and we, you know, God put it in our heart to expand, and so we expanded to the neighbor islands now. So we do a Camp Agape in Big Island. This will be the second for Big Island, and we also do a Camp Agape Maui. This year was the first one there. And so that was a real big blessing. And then we also started one in Oregon. And this will be the third one in Oregon. The past 2 years, they had about almost 200 children come to the camp. Mm-hmm. And this will be the third year. So just a blessing to see the ministry stretch out and let people have that James heart. You know, James 1 talks about the pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is to reach out to the orphans and widows and keep oneself unspotted from the world. Mm-hmm, and we get to see people partner together and reach out to the people that God would be reaching out to. So it's a blessing.
Now, when you said you were going to be in prison for 80 years, what was it for?
See, I was a career criminal. I was fifth felon. I already got convicted for first-degree extortion, kidnapping, robbery, heavy body injuries, assault, and attempted murder. And my last case that I got, the lawyer said that, you see, Yamamoto's sake can put you away for life as a career criminal. And I said, what is a career criminal? He says, well, they're going to give you 40, and they're going to put another 40 on top of it. So 80 years is the rest of my life. And God used that to really bring me to my knees and go and receive the Lord into my life. And since I've received them into my life, he started to come in and make change and did this miracle. I prayed for a Christian judge when I was in prison, and I prayed that, God, if you will, then do me, and your word says nothing is impossible. Do this miracle for me. When I do go to court, give me a Christian judge, one that would judge me through the eyes of God, not based on my past.
And who was the judge?
And I went to court, and Judge Elwin Ahu was the judge, and he cut me free.
Yeah.
He dropped the charge. Didn't know him, dropped the charge, got out. They appealed it again. He dropped it again, and so I got out of prison. And the miracle was I was praying for a Christian judge, right? And I went to this church the second week out, and at that church, this guy goes up and shares his testimony. It looks so familiar, and it says his name, Judge Elwin Ahu. I go, look, wow, that's the judge who cut me free from the life.
And I interviewed Judge Elwin Ahu. I don't have the episode number, but I got to know the heart of Elwin Ahu by doing his interview, and he has that heart to have discernment, and so this is all meant to be, I guess, because now you are here as a product of Elwin Ahu, and you're able to go forward with what you need to do, and that's to reach out to the families. Now, when I interviewed Duke Aiona, he talked about those, we talked about revolving door. And were you one of those then when they said you were career?
I went, back and forth into prison 5 times. In this way, I became a career criminal. So they actually stack on, if you have 20, they stack on 20. If you have 40, they stack on another 40. So it's pretty much you'll do life in prison. And I deserved it. And I'm just grateful to God's grace.
Right.
That he would give me this chance to be out and be with my family. And
when you were in prison, you had children, you said, or?
When I was in prison, I had a daughter. We're divorced from my ex-wife. And so I, coming out, I really had to start all over again. And even with the relationship with them, was really hard in the beginning because of my past. Like you're talking about the revolving door.
Right.
And you couldn't blame them. But, I guess after a while, God allowed them to see that, I did change. And I'm really grateful, because if not, maybe never see my daughter till she graduated. Yeah, she was 13 years old when I got out. And so, we got to bring her church, and she got saved, and it's a blessing.
Yeah. Well, now for Camp Agape, it's meant for people just like you. Your experience was while you were in prison. The people, not only Duke Aiona talked about the consequences, and the consequences are that you leave your family behind.
Right.
So what Camp Agape helps the families with, as the parent is in the prison, is that you bring them together. And tell us a little bit more what happens in the camp.
Yeah, so we really planned this camp for the children, because what we went through and what our children went through. And we know that in life there can be hard times and quitting points. And so we wanted to make this camp for the children, that one day when they come to the roadblock, or the fork in the road, they would remember something, that because the camp is agape love, is God's love. They remember God's love. So we planned out this camp where the children will have just the time of their life, experience things that they never did. So everything that we planned in the camp, we did it the best, knowing that one day, if a child hits a roadblock, they will remember. I remember at this bonfire, how much they shared love, and how. And so we started a camp, and we did like a surfing. We teach the kids how to surf, and we take them. Many of them live in Hawaii but never surfed before. So we have teachers and people that come out and teach them to surf. We put on this beginning surf meet for them, and then we take them horseback riding, and we also do like crafts and games with them. And then they do devotions every morning. They learn how to get into God's Word for the first time for many of them.
Yeah.
And the next day they do like rope courses, archery, and crafts, and
so
team building games.
It challenges them as well.
Yeah.
To accomplish things.
Yeah. So and it's a blessing. It's a blessing because a lot of them come. You have to understand, when you look at them, it's not like anything else, because when they come with so much hurt, so much shame, so much abuse, so much pain that they go through, all of them. Yeah. So when they're there, at first they come off, they're mad, and why my mom or dad sent me to this camp, and you just see how, because we plan everything just to touch them, drop, bring down the wall and let God come in slowly by slowly. And the end of the camp, in the middle and the end of the camp, you see all the children just jumping and screaming, crying for Jesus. And at the camp, you see them all accept the Lord. And this will be, after this season, this will be a 15th camp, throughout the mainland and here. But almost every camp that we did, the new ones that came for the first time, pretty much all of them accepted the Lord into their lives.
Fantastic.
And to see that, to see the children that would never step into a church, but God used the tool of this camp to bring them and to see them accept the Lord. And the fruit from it is every year we bring back mentors to the camp. And if they want to come back as a junior mentor to the camp for the second time, they got to come as a junior mentor.
So it keeps them involved.
So we usually have like 30 to 40 of them that come to the camp every year, and we do this ongoing mentorship for them throughout the year. So it's a blessing. But the best part about this is the camp is the camp. The children accept the Lord. It's such a blessing. But we video this, and we use the camp in the video to touch the families after.
Right, I
and
saw that.
The moms and the dads, the caregivers, the brothers and sisters that couldn't come. And the powerful part is we take it into the prisons.
To see the parents.
And we go into prison and we show it in all the prisons. And when the men get to see their daughters or sons in a video and say, wow, that's my daughter, and that's my son. God touched their heart and evangelized them more than a Bible speaker could, and they opened their heart to Jesus and received God, and seeing that, it gives them the drive to say, you know what, I need to make this change. And like people like Dennis and so many other men, seen that, been there, and out now and serving at our camp. So if you see our camp, we a big portion of the volunteers are ex-inmates. Just giving back, you know, to the children.
Which is fantastic, because you know right there that you're stopping that cycle. First of all, the cycle of the revolving door, and also the children won't be, like you said, how many percentage of them end up in prison if their parents?
They say 8 out of 10.
That's 80%.
You know, 80%.
That's a lot of people. That's generational.
Is very high, and it's like, but you know, with God there is hope. We can take them off the path of destruction, and through this we can put them on the path of righteousness and try to keep them on this path. And when you see children like Wendy, that grew up in the ministry and now is one of our greatest leaders and evangelists in the ministry, and Deidre, and so many of the other girls and boys in the ministry, seeing them graduate and going on to college, and which wouldn't
have happened if there was no outreach like Camp Agape. And you know, I saw some of the past videos of I know Kim Janala did one. She hosted it, and every time I watch it, I cannot stop crying, because there's so much hope in there. And I also know that there's a lot of our incarcerated situated in Arizona. So how does it reach the inmates in Arizona that come from Hawaii?
You know, when we pray, I mean, God gave us vision to this camp. We prayed, and God said, you know, you reach out to the most hurting people. And we know that the guys in Arizona and in the mainland prisons was hurting more, because they don't have visitation. Yeah, they cannot have visitation. Collect calls get expensive, so they got to cut the collect calls for the families back here. You know, and so their communication is just really hard, and they cannot afford to go up and fly there. So we know that the children are hurting the most, and the men there. So God put it in our hearts. So we started to go up and bring big teams up there and do big outreaches into the prison up there in Arizona. And just a miracle. Like I said, this full circle ministry, we bring the videos there. We do this big outreach. We bring the brothers and, you know, the Katinas and all this crew to really bring the aloha and love, and let the guys know that, you know what, you're not forgotten. And you're very much loved by your children and us. And we do this big outreach up there, and we've seen like 750 guys at a time when we go there, accept the Lord. And you know, every year that we go back, just so many of the men give their life to the Lord. But God used this as a tool, our Camp Agape. Well, I mean, if you're in prison and away from home especially, and you're missing home so much, and you see this video of home and your kids, you know, that even bring the toughest, hardest guy in prison to open up their heart to Jesus.
And I saw that in the video too, that they just break down.
Yeah, you know? So it's a wonderful blessing. That's why we're really grateful to, you know, all of our sponsors and donors and people who partner with us, because we really get to do this full circle ministry, and then see the guys receive the Lord, get mentored in there, and then now come out and serve
and share as well.
Yeah, and be testimonies, you know.
Yes, exactly.
And when they get to come and serve at the camp with their children, it's such a blessing to see that, you know, because they're watching this in prison. And so many of them in prison seeing, that's my daughter, my son, and just wishing they could be out there. And then
so it gives them purpose.
Yeah, too. So they always tell us, when we get out, we're going to come, we're going to serve at the camp. And when they do and come and serve at the camp, you look at that and it's just, what a blessing. Yeah. And
you know, another thing I observe about in the video is that the children are hurting, obviously, because they don't have their, and the shame. But what really touched me is when I saw this young girl give her testimony and how she forgave her mother. I know that forgiveness is a huge part, and for the kids to feel abandoned or have the abuse and the living conditions, I can't even imagine. But the forgiveness part is something that you probably teach, and it's
Yeah,
one of the
so
hardest things to get over.
that's a big part. So our themes in the camp, we do trust in the first night. We just allow the kids to come and just open up to trust in God, you know, and us, and then the next day is love. And you know, such a powerful topic, because they gotta know that no matter what, if we were let down by people, there's one that would never let them down, and there's the true love, is just God.
Right.
And the second day, third day is forgiveness, and it's really hard on, but you see just a breakthrough.
Yeah.
You know, of the kids really letting go, knowing that they're not the only one going through this. And if God can forgive them and the parents or whatever, all of us, for making mistakes, God will also forgive you. You know, and when they learn God's love, His forgiveness, it's a powerful. We, the children, do journaling in the morning, and we put all scriptures about forgiveness. And when they come up and they start crying and saying, "I forgive my dad," you know, and I'm gonna
And
pray
that's
for
one
him.
of the hardest things to do. You know, a lot of kids, they learn how to hold things in.
Yeah.
Kids hold things in,
Yeah.
and they learn how to harden their hearts. They learn how to become callous, because that's the protection. But once you find that safe place, once you find that you can trust, especially adults, because you grew up so young and the adults are not there for you. So now when they come here, they learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Right? And then they probably feel like I used to feel, that crying was a sign of weakness, when really it's such a cleansing, right?
For a lot of us, it's so hard, right?
It's so hard.
My daughter, you know, she shared testimony at our camps, and she shared that, you know, how she was so ashamed her whole life growing up. She couldn't even tell her best friend where I was. She couldn't even tell her family members and her cousins where I was, because of the shame. And she held that all the way, you know, till I got out, and she received the Lord and learned about forgiveness. So yeah, I mean, she bring hope to the children too, you know, said, you know, also shame hurt and everything, but today, look, my dad started his campaign as a pastor today, and there's hope, you know. And so the last day, the theme is hope and prayer.
That's the last day.
And it's so awesome to, we pray, and you see all the children accept the Lord, and it's just a blessing. And then we do this prayer for them, for all the children, and we say, you know, now that the Lord is in your life, and we want you to come up, and want to pray for you folks, for any situation, for your mom or dad or your loved one or yourself. And they all come up, and we get to pray, and they get to just release the tears of shame.
I saw the video.
And
it's
pain.
just that every time I watch it, I start crying. There's no way I can watch that without crying, and I'm getting all. That's okay. But what I like best is that as they're praying, a lot of them have these caring arms that are around them that they never ever had. And I imagine that the parent that ends up in prison didn't have that either, and just to have that loving, safe arm, and knowing that they have such a loving God, it's such a release. I imagine these, what you call 150 angels, right? You call the kids that come to the camp angels, right? There's not a dry eye, because look, I'm crying, but that's okay. But anyway, it's such a great program. And tell us more how people can get involved at every different level. And then after you do that, we're going to bring people in here. Dennis Tumura and his daughter Wendy, where Dennis was incarcerated and Wendy was one of the angels. So we're going to bring them in afterwards. But tell us more how people can get involved with this, and all the different levels. Yeah,
so if anyone want to be involved, and you can go to our website, www.campagapehawaii.com.
And I'll have all the links attached
and you
to
can
this.
go, there's all the attachments, the links if you want to volunteer, if you want to be a mentor, if you want to pray for us, and if you want to donate and be a partner with our ministry. So go to campagapehawaii.com or again, and our website will we have all the applications to be a volunteer, a mentor, or to donate. And if you out there and you have anyone that you know that have the children of incarcerated, please notify them and tell them, to come to this camp, because the camp is free. And we provide free backpacks, water bottles, toothbrushes, and sleeping bags and slippers and shirts, and all they need to do is come with their shorts and shoes. And we'll provide everything else for them. And because we want them to know at the foot of the cross is level ground. God will meet you no matter where we come from. No matter where we come from, God is going to love you there. And that's God's agape love, is his unconditional, his sacrificial love. And so if you know anyone that have children out there, please sign them up for this camp. It'll be a life-changing camp, and we promise we'll do our best to put them on the path of righteousness and allow them to really see the love of Jesus.
Now, do you have a maximum of children that you accept?
We usually go up to a 150, but last year we had almost 180. But if you're out there, you have children, sign them up. We'll love to bring them and let them experience the camp.
And also, how many volunteers? Say you increase to 200. How many volunteers will you need to serve the children?
So every week we have about 350 volunteers. That come out, that help with we need help with the cooking, the hospitality, the setup, setup and breakdown, and there's so many different areas, drivers, and just so many different areas where we can use help and mentors.
Okay.
And if you're interested and have that heart to really bring God's love to the children, go to our website and sign up. It will be a blessing. It will be a life-changing thing, because you can go to missions and go somewhere else to do a mission, and you'll leave it and come back and that's it. But God put in our heart to do this mission in our backyard. And reach out to those that are hurting the most, and bring God's love to them. And we don't only have to just plant the seed. Like when you go to a mission, we get to water it, because we go do ongoing mentorship with the kids, so we can see the process of them.
And it's full circle.
We can see the fruits of it, and we can see the circle where God will do this full circle ministry, and we can be all part of it. That's last year we had over 40 different churches partnering together and doing this camp together. And that was God's in my heart, that I knew was from God, that he wanted us to get all the churches around the island involved, so that if the children are lived on Kahuku or Haula or Kaneohe, then they can walk out of their house in the zip code and walk right into a church and be helped. So having that partnering churches just helps us to really let God reach out to them more and give them a more chance.
Now let me ask you this, because this podcast show is not only just isolated for here in Hawaii, because it's in iTunes, Stitcher Radio, YouTube. It goes all over the world. Do you know of any other states that are doing this? And if they wanted to start it themselves, would it be a good idea to contact you, or do you have anything in place that they can copy?
Yeah, so they would be good. They can contact me. I also work for Prison Fellowship, which is Chuck Olson's ministry, and director for Hawaii, that take care of Angel Tree and prison outreach, prison ministry. But they can contact me, and we have connections all over the nation. And we started one in Oregon.
Oh yeah, you
mentioned
Oregon.
They came and shadowed a year and learned and went back and duplicated up there. And such a blessing. This will be the third camp in Oregon. And they had 200 children come to the camp. It's just unbelievable.
Wow, so it's blossoming.
And we looking to start one in California this year, and I think Arkansas, if I'm not mistaken. next year we're going to start one.
Oh, I've been to Arkansas 8 times.
Yeah. Wow. So we had this guy come to our camp, and he really captured our heart and said, Pastor Roy, I'm moving, but I'm going to start one. So he found a location and got churches involved. So they coming back this camp and do a little bit shadowing and go back and start up there. And you think about it, we needed the Camp Agape everywhere. Yes. I mean, there's children that have been incarcerated in every zip code, in every zip code. And so for us to be able to reach out and help the children, I mean, think about it, they are the highest risk.
They are.
And
they are.
If we can change that statistics and put them on the right path, that would not just save their lives, but it would be saving so much of our taxpayers, our community.
Yes.
And you think if we give a chance to really change the children that really will be our next criminals, and we give a chance to, like Elwin was saying, he stepped off the bench to see them before they go to court.
Right,
so if we can do that and change the children's life, which will be the most highest, the highest risk of becoming an inmate and committing crime, then it's a blessing. And it's a blessing to do that.
Yeah, so if there's any listeners out there that are in different parts of the nation, and even as far as, I looked at some of my analytics, and this show has a listenership elsewhere too, like Guam and Mexico and other parts of the world. Not a huge audience, but you know what? If you can plant the seed here and then it spreads all over the U.S., why not the rest of the world?
Right.
Because every country has this dilemma. And so any of you out there listening who know of an inmate or was an inmate or know any children of incarcerated parents, and this sounds like of interest to you and you want to start your own, then definitely go to the website, write to Pastor Roy Yamamoto, get a hold of him, and see if any possibility of shadowing the program and just taking it out and planting seeds other places, because it needs to go worldwide actually. So I want to thank you for sharing that with us and our audience. And now we're going to kind of take a little break and bring Dennis Tamura and his daughter Wendy, who are the full circle story of how he was incarcerated, she was a child of an incarcerated parent, and it came full circle. So we'll be right back.
Thank you for listening to the Legal Advice in Paradise podcast. For more information, visit www.legaladviceinparadise.com.